Alright, y'all, thanks for tuning in. We are a little past halfway through one of the most ridiculously officiated NFL seasons of all time. I don't remember another one like this. Time where crooked Dwayne Haight is still actively reffing after numerous cheating scandals, officials deliberately moving the spot of the football, and suspiciously missed calls mere inches from refs' eyes at critical moments in a game. Today, let's review the top 35 worst calls in the 2023 season so far. That includes weeks 1 through 8. I also included a crazy bonus play at the end as well, so make sure you stick around for that one. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, as the industry will not want my videos to leak. I broke up the bad officiating calls into 3 sections: non-calls, badly re-reviewed calls, and ghost calls. This seemed like the best way to showcase just how crooked these refs really are. Trust me, you won't believe it until you see the evidence for yourself. Let's begin with badly reviewed calls, as these are some of the worst calls I found since they were re-reviewed or discussed by the officials and still somehow messed up the call. You won't believe this first one. Cardinals and Ravens second quarter. This may be the worst reviewed call I have ever seen and will question everything you know about football. Even the announcers say they've never seen this happen ever before. On a 4th and 1 play, Cardinals look like they got it as the ball carrier extends the ball over the line before being down. However, it's justifiably close, so they do a measurement review just to make sure. While this is happening, one of the refs actually moves the ball back a half a yard to guarantee the turnover on downs for the Ravens. Many people see this and no one does anything about it, and the TV analysts are baffled, as you can see by the captions. This is so bad, and there have been a lot of questionable calls for the Ravens this season. I may do more ref reviews on them due to what I have been seeing so far. Honestly, just baffling. NFL corporate in New York didn't get involved on this play and just swept it under the rug. Next, Cardinals and Commanders fourth quarter, about 8 minutes left. The ball carrier clearly gets the first down on a 3rd and 11 play. However, the ref marks it 1 yard short to make it 4th and 1. They review the placement and confirm the call stands when it definitely should have been reversed with all the video footage. Fans are visibly upset and confused. Next one, 49ers and Rams. Refs initially called illegal contact on defensive back number 7, and then after review picked up the flag and said there was no foul on the play. They said this because the QB was outside the pocket, or supposedly he was, because when the TV analyst re-reviewed the play, the QB actually shows that he was not outside the pocket. You can see in the captions the announcers were confused by this as well. You be the judge though, and you let us know in the comments what you think. Next, Raiders and Bills, second quarter with about 12 minutes left. Ref initially throws the flag for contact by defensive back number 47 on wide receiver number 11. Discussed this over and picked up the flag and said this was actually not a penalty. They even went as far to say it was a completed catch and first down when the wide receiver's leg was out of bounds and didn't even get the second foot down. This was all right in front of the ref too, who was looking at it the whole time. It was so bad that the New York NFL offices had to call in and say it was incomplete pass before they got exposed for fixing the game. This also proves that if a call is wrong, the NFL can just call it in and fix it, but they rarely ever do it. Wonder why? Happened on this play though, even though there was multiple things wrong otherwise. Next, Cardinals and Cowboys, fourth quarter with about 5 minutes left. Refs initially threw the flag for a clear pass interference, as the Cardinals defensive back number 20 never gets his head around and just runs into the Cowboys wide receiver. Even without slow motion replay, it's obvious he never gets that head around and wasn't looking for the ball at all. A complete, catchable pass otherwise, and looks like a good call. That is until the refs pick it up after further review and say there was actually no penalty on the play. You can read the captions of the announcers just baffled at the sequence of events at this important point in the fourth quarter. Chiefs and Vikings, fourth quarter, about 4 minutes left. on a 4th and 12 for the Vikings with the game on the line. The Vikings throw a deep bomb and the ref rightly throws the flag for holding. The Chiefs defensive back had their hands tightly around the shoulder pads for most of the route. There was even a face mask on the D-line as well. However, after review, the refs decide to pick up the flag as they said it can't be holding if the pass was tipped. Okay, well, let's review. Even if that's true, the pass was never tipped. After review, you can see the QB's pass never being touched. On top of that, the Chiefs defensive back takes off his helmet to complain, which is an additional penalty. And with replay, you can even see the refs advising the player to put their helmet back on. I've never even seen that before. This is not only a bad call, but they are actively helping the Chiefs player avoid a penalty after it was already committed. You can see the announcers mentioning it in the captions as well, and the Vikings coach signaling it for a call. Refs didn't call anything on the Chiefs though on such an important play for the Vikings. Not the pass interference, not the face mask, and not even the helmet being off after advising him to put it back on. Very suspect. This one is one of the worst ones as well. Let's move on to the non-call section. This is where penalties just weren't called that were right in front of the ref's face or were pretty egregious and for some reason just never got called. Jets and Bills in overtime with about 9 minutes left. The Jets player was not called for tripping on the punt return that won the game in OT. This is a clear call and you can see the leg get shot up and trips the other player. Wonder why this wasn't called, because it was right next to the ball carrier where all the refs' eyes should have been. Chiefs and Lions, 4th quarter, right at the beginning. A clear false start on the Chiefs number 74 in a very close game. The Chiefs and the Eagles I get so many comments about for calls like this, where they are clearly holding or clearly committed a false start well before the snap of the ball, and somehow they just don't get called with the refs looking right at them at the start of the play. It's pretty crazy. I've done a couple Eagles videos already. I'm going to change up how I do them though. I do want to start getting into reviewing both sides of the ball, both teams, just because I got a lot of comments on that as well. It wasn't my intention. I just wanted to review the winning team, and I got a lot of complaints about the Eagles, so I decided to review them after watching those games as well. But for future specific games I review, I'll include both teams, even though it does take more time. I try to get them out before the end of that week that they played, just so it's still fresh in people's memory. But I'll try to get them out as fast as I can while reviewing both teams. Let's move on to the next play. Commanders and Broncos in the 4th quarter, the last play of the game, for a 2-point conversion that will decide if there's overtime or not. They refused to call the hold or pass interference on number 25. It was pretty egregious. The refs were definitely looking that way. It determined the game completely, and it's hard to argue how they missed this one, especially since I've seen it called for a lot less. And literally was the last play of the game that determined it. So let me know what you guys think of this one as well. Browns and Steelers, 2nd quarter with about 11 minutes left. Refs call a holding on the Browns, but miss a clear face mask on Steelers number 98. Should have been offsetting penalties at least, but they only call it on the Browns. I thought this one was suspect as well, especially since our next play is in the same game in the 4th quarter and was against the Browns as well. So it makes it seem very suspicious that multiple calls in the game kind of had an outcome on the total. So we move on to the next one. Same game, Browns and Steelers, 4th quarter with about 1 minute left. 2 close by refs on the play miss a clear defensive pass interference call on the cornerback number 24 guarding wide receiver number 11. This non-call seals the game for the Steelers despite the refs being right in view to see a big yank on that jersey and the shoulder pads. Look for yourself, it's pretty obvious, and given the last questionable call, it's clear this game needs to be re-reviewed. I'll see if I can do it if I got time. Next, Giants and Cardinals. 1st quarter with about 12 minutes left. Clear pass interference or holding by cornerback number 25 right in front of the ref watching it the whole time. The ref looks the receiver right in the eye and doesn't call it. This was called on a 3rd and 6 play and forced the punt, ending any momentum on that drive. You can see how calls like these affect the starts and ends of games. Next, Colts and Ravens fourth quarter. With about 2 minutes left. Penalty called on the offense at 3rd and 9. However, refs missed a crazy face mask that snapped the ball carrier's head pretty far back. It went to a punt, but should have been offsetting penalties and redo the down. At this point in the game, you can't throw a flag on such a random call, and to not catch the face mask on the person literally carrying the ball where all the attention is seems very suspect. Colts ended up winning that game, so could have literally affected the outcome of the game, especially since our next non-call play was also against the Ravens in the same game in overtime and 4th down with about 3 minutes left. This was on a 4th and 3 with the game on the line. If they miss this, Colts take over and only have to march 20 or so yards down the field for a chance at a winning field goal. Refs miss a pass interference or holding penalty on the defensive pack number 45 when the Ravens wide receiver number 4 crosses over the middle. Coach Harbaugh is livid at this point, especially after having to accept the last 4th quarter face mask. At least throw a late flag and review it or something. I've seen it done before just to make sure they get the call right. I know it doesn't seem like too much, but they call that hold all the time. So that was an easy call right there, and unfortunately it led to the loss for Baltimore. Very suspect given the last missed call as well. Jets and Patriots, 2nd quarter with seconds left. Here, the Jets DB literally smacks the wide receiver in the face and played very aggressive coverage on the route. The TV analysts are calling it out as well. Not only did he hit him in the face right before the ball, but he blocked his vision of the ball as well. I don't think the DB even turned his head around, which would have been another reason to call the pass interference. This also all happened right in front of a ref and chose not to call anything after witnessing all that. Bill Belichick went furious after this because this could have easily put them in field goal range. Next, Saints and Packers 2nd quarter with about 5 minutes left. On a 3rd and 9 play, Love throws the ball right before the sack because he wants to remain in field goal range. Whether it was intentional grounding or not, the ref decided to not do any of that and rule him down before he even threw the ball, and gave the Saints the sack. This was right in front of the refs and knocked the Packers outside of field goal range on 4th down. This is what people mean when they ask if refs are blind, because it clearly seems like they don't have good vision mere feet from their eyes. Broncos and Dolphins 2nd quarter with about 14 minutes left. It amazes me how much of this is right in front of the refs, and I keep repeating that over and over to show how much it happens. And they act like nothing happened every time. This face mask is so egregious, the Broncos player's helmet completely gets pulled off as he's trying to make the tackle. Like, how did they not see that? The ref is right there. The helmet coming off and being held up for a moment by the Dolphins player says it all. Eagles and Bucks 2nd quarter. On 2nd and 4th with only 20 seconds left in the half, the Eagles couldn't afford to make a mistake. Yet they did. Lane Johnson literally false starts, in my opinion, more than anyone in the league. This one is so blatant though, it's crazy how they got away with it. The non-call kept them in field goal range with a manageable 3rd down. Colts and Rams on 2nd down late in the 3rd quarter. The Rams defender straight up just tackles the Colts receiver. An obvious flag for pass interference, but no flags come out. Easy call and everyone is questioning it. Commanders and Bears, another one late in 3rd quarter. On a breakaway pass that could have changed the entire game. The Bears wide receiver is ruled out and he was nowhere close to being out. This could have been a touchdown run that would have put the Bears within 1 score. You can see the wide receiver visibly frustrated at the whistle. The ref was right there, not sure how he called that out of bounds. He was staring at the feet the whole time. Commanders and Bears, 4th quarter, 9 minutes left, in the same game as the last non-call we just mentioned. This is 3rd and 2, right in front of the ref, for a pretty egregious pass interference. The DB was completely wrapped around the Bears wide receiver. The refs did not want to seem to make any important second half calls for the Bears. Wonder why. Let's move on. 2nd quarter with about 2 minutes left in the first half. Huge play. The ref refuses to call a blatant pass interference on the Giants defensive back as he doesn't turn around to look for the ball. It's pretty obvious and the ref is right there. It's starting to look like the NFL has something against the Dolphins at this point, as they have missed so many calls this season, it's nuts. Moving on. Steelers and Ravens, 4th quarter, with about 7 minutes left. On 2nd and goal at a critical play in the 4th quarter, there is a blatant pass interference. No head turned around either, right in front of a ref, and no penalty at all. This completely affects the game, and the ref is staring so closely at the play, the Ravens DB almost runs into him. Like, come on guys, I can't make this stuff up. Next, Pats and Saints late in the second quarter on a 3rd and 6 play. Crucial play right before the end of the half. Refs miss another clear pass interference. Remember, these aren't just 50-50 calls. These are clear, aggressive pass interferences right in front of the refs, and it looks like they deliberately choose not to call them. Giants and Bills, last play in the game, 4th quarter. Another one I'm pointing out where it was literally the last play in the game. So the refs clearly decided the outcome of this. It was a very important play in the red zone. A concentrated part of the field should be hard to miss an obvious pass interference. It's not like they were 30 yards away from the ref. And look, no flag right in front of the ref, and the officials literally decided the entire outcome of this game on one play. The Bills DB never gets his head around and should be an obvious call as he was holding on the jersey as well. Obviously, they should have ran it, but the refs would have probably just called a holding on that too. This is a ridiculous non-call. Eagles in Miami, 3rd quarter, with about 4 minutes left. This may have been one of the worst ones I've seen as well. This one actually got me into making the videos, because it was easily in the top 10 of the worst non-calls in history. In a playoff-style matchup at a critical point late in the 3rd quarter, the ref misses a clear face mask right in front of his eyes. They refused to even acknowledge the call as it would have put the Dolphins in position for a TD and tie the game. Like, how do you defend this? It was literally right in front of the ref. Moving on to the next section, ghost calls. This is when the refs just almost make up a call or extremely exaggerate something to a point of throwing the flag when it actually looked like nothing even happened. For this one, Ravens and Bengals, 2nd quarter with about 30 seconds left. Number 3, OBJ commits offensive holding pass interference on the cornerback, number 29. The refs call the penalty on the defensive player instead. Pretty ridiculous since Odell Beckham Jr. committed the penalty himself, but they call it on the opposing player. They could have easily picked up the flag on this one as we have seen countless times before, but they don't. New York corporate offices could have called in and reversed this, but they didn't. Next, Lions and Seahawks. This game had 2 calls that I want to point out. So this first one, in the first quarter with about 8 minutes or so left, they pulled a flag for holding or pass interference on cornerback number 23 when there was no penalty whatsoever. Check out this review, see for yourself, let me know in the comments, but I wouldn't have called this, and I'm sure they were doing worse all game. On the next one, same game, Lions Seahawks, this one's in the 3rd quarter. They called a penalty on wide receiver number 8, negating a TD play. This one is pretty egregious as it literally gets rid of a touchdown score. But when we review it, there didn't appear to be any penalty at all, and this is a pretty ridiculous ghost call. Moving on, Cardinals and Commanders, 1st quarter. Flag thrown late on tight end 87 for an illegal block when clearly the defender shoves 87 on his route. Let's look at the review. I'm open to any opinions in the comments as well, but it's definitely a ghost call in my opinion as it was more on the defender than the tight end. Titans and Browns, late in the 2nd quarter, right before the 2 minutes. Ref calls number 2 Cooper out of bounds, negating a possible touchdown catch and run at a critical point before the half. It was literally within inches of the ref's vision, looking at the wide receiver the whole time. Pretty crazy how he called him out of bounds. Honestly, make it make sense. Chiefs and Jets, 4th quarter, about 4 minutes left. On a 3rd and 20 play late in the game. Very important play with the game on the line. The refs call a late holding on the Jets defensive back. However, not only was the holding arguable, but the ref only throws the flag right after the interception. Not right after the hold, right after the interception. He waited until the interception before throwing the flag. On top of that, the TV analysts even mentioned how that was a weird call given what they've allowed all game. Jets head coach is justifiably livid as the refs pretty much just cost him the game. Colts and Browns, 4th quarter, about 50 seconds left. These next 2 ones I'll bring up are in the same game and are so egregious because it was right at the end of the game, both affecting the Colts. Let's review. Colts end up getting a fumble turnover, which would have sealed the win for them, and then all of a sudden a flag comes out for illegal contact. Such a basic call that had no effect on the actual play and arguably was not illegal contact by the defender. It was third down for the Browns, so this now gives them a first and goal scenario, changing the whole game and pretty much handing the Browns the win. If I had a big bet on this game, I would have been furious. They literally took money right out of my pocket. You can see the announcers in the caption as well disagreeing with the call at this point in the game. The Colts coach is furious as well, obviously, but this just keeps getting worse and worse as we move on to the next ghost call. Again, same game, Colts and Browns, fourth quarter with about 30 seconds left. Here we go again, now on first and goal. Browns QB throws an uncatchable pass and the refs immediately call a pass interference. Now this probably was a justified call except if the pass is uncatchable. They don't really call a pass interference or a hold. This ball was almost in the stands and was absolutely uncatchable. But the refs instead decide to end the game with a ghost call like this. Right after they just called another ghost call on a fumble and turnover. Terrible officiating against the Colts on back-to-back plays in the fourth quarter with under a minute left. Really hard to argue this one. Moving on, Pats and Bills, third quarter, 12 minutes left. Now, Bills are really far behind at this point in the third quarter, and all of a sudden they get a momentum-changing penalty with a roughing the passer call. Although the Pats defender never really hit the head, and Josh Allen did a LeBron-type flop for the call, you can see even the announcers joking about the theatrics in the captions, and they also disagreed with the call. However, this wouldn't have been that big of a deal if they didn't call another penalty on this same game. So moving on, this is the bonus call I mentioned at the beginning of the video. It's in the same game, Pats and Bills, in the fourth quarter, under 2 minutes left. I want to hear your thoughts on this one. Now all of a sudden the Bills came back to take the lead. Wonder how that happened so quickly in the second half. We get a breakaway run by the Pats with 2 minutes left in the fourth. This run would have set them up for a game-tying field goal, if not a potential game-winning touchdown. Feel really bad for Bill Belichick at this point as his coaching career on the Patriots is at line this season. However, the refs called this one back late. It's for an illegal man downfield call. Now I think this call is correct on the center as he was well past the line of scrimmage before the ball was thrown. However, it's a pretty basic call that had no effect on the actual run at the moment in the game. This is especially after the roughing the passing call earlier. So that completes all the plays I wanted to mention. The top 35 with an additional bonus one. I don't know how you argue any of these. Maybe you can argue a few and cherry pick some. But given the different degrees of penalties I mentioned between ghost calls and non-calls and re-reviewed calls that still got messed up with all the camera footage and AI technology we have right now, it's so baffling how 2023 has been the worst officiated season of all time, in my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you can argue a couple of these. I would love to hear the debates. Please like and subscribe otherwise, as I usually get shadow banned for this type of comment, and the movers and shakers of the NFL and the Vegas gambling industry are not going to want this video to get out. Maybe even the Vegas mob as well. I don't know. I sleep with one eye open. Please like and subscribe. Thank you so much.